Hello, my dear Aquarians, and Happy New Year. Hopefully this year is going to be way better in any sense, in any kind of perspective. This is Cat Tarot. My name is Cat if you're the first time here. So I'm the voice and the basically narrator behind this channel. And there is Safi the cat, who is basically the beauty, who has decided to join us here, and she decided to step on all my little cold notes that I made for astrology things. So this is what I'm preparing for us for this coming through the 2021. The first part is going to be January overview, so we are going to be seeing what is in store for us. A second part, just a few cards I'm going to pull, is going to be quick overview of 2021. So we know what to expect, what kind of holes we can fall into, also what kind of celebrations we can hope for. All right, you're leaving already? You're leaving, you're stretching your pretty beauty. Okay, so Elvis has just left the building over here, and we can completely focus over here. So you're also going to get an oracle message in the end. And I also want to mention to you, if you're not already on my mailing list, to put yourself in. The direct link is right down in the description, because that way you can get the overview for numerological 2021, which is the year number 5, and what to expect. And that's going to be actually very, very interesting. I'm going to remind you about that in the end. Lastly, guys, don't forget that this is a general reading. To get more information about what you really want to have from the general readings, you should probably watch your sun sign, your moon sign, and your ascendant. Of course, the personal reading is the best. Also, personal readings are available through cattarot.ca, and personal annual reading are only available to my past clients. So send me an email and inquire, because I didn't even list it on the website, so not to be confusing. So shall we start, my dear Aquarians? So let's do it. Aquarians. So we have 6 of Earth and Sea Tom that is coming through. So Sea Tom is basically the knight in the shining armor. It is us exposing our belly, which is the most vulnerable. And we Aquarians, in spite of the appearances of us wanting to be strong and dignified, we actually do have a very soft belly. We are very emotional, in spite of horrible, and I don't know who did it, somebody who we wronged very much, that we have no emotions. But the truth is here, that when the card shows up like that, it means that finally we are ready. Whatever it was holding us back, a job, a career, a lack of direction, lack of meeting a new partner, lack of opportunities, now it's ability that we will meet somebody else. That somebody else is going to be either a water sign or earth sign. And it can be somebody who is very encompassing, I guess would be the word, because look at that. Not only did he let her come in with the kitties, and the kitties can get the food, but she's getting both food, the kisses, and the royal treatment with this thing. So this is hey, everybody's welcome over here. So this is really interesting as the opener. Also, the 6 in the crux over here is really talking also about relationship and sort of some ideal situation that we would like to create, but we are more or less creating this more or less on give and take. But when it's upright, that give and take is always mutual. We both give and take, and they both give and take, and that way it really resonates together. So let's see what we have next. We'll have another 6, so this is at least talking about some soulmate-y flavor. I am talking about January 1st. Remember, I said the first part is going to be January. Lots of things happening in January, right? January brings the end of Uranus retrograde, and guess which planet rules us? Yes, Saturn and Uranus, and we just had the great conjunction. I released the video. If you didn't see it, I'm going to provide the link at the very end. And also, this is the first Mercury retrograde of the year, both Uranus and Mercury basically ruling air signs. So here we see basically that unity. We see it's really interesting in this card. and I always stand and look at it because they really look like yin and yang, right? There is a little bit of the tail in here, and there is a paw going over here, just like this missing link. It's a part of you that kind of completes you if you really wish. But what is really interesting about this card from the other decks is that in this deck we actually see only two. Most decks, and I don't know why this is called the Lovers, because it really should be called the Choices, right? In this particular deck, let me just move camera a little bit this way. In this particular deck, we don't have the angel or anybody kind of standing around and asking these questions. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to stay here? Are you sure you kind of like want to do that? This is kind of like simply a vision that, hey, it's feeling like home here. I really want to do that. This also means that we are quote unquote arriving home. We kind of like tend to be that sign in this kind of like long journey. And I think we are the mostly developed sign of all signs in zodiac. I'm not counting Pisces because they are already transferring. They're already doing their job, being on this planet, kind of guiding us and nurturing us no matter what we do. So they are not in competition, if you wish. So Pisces, if you're listening to this, you already are in a category on your own. But like, we really had to go through the thick and thin and learn different things. And the job over here that we have as the last mission is to kind of open ourselves to the groups and to kind of like feel that this is our mission, that this is what we want to do. Unfortunately, over the last few years, that mission has felt as kind of hamster wheel and kind of like stalling, not doing anything about it, or being almost penalized or being punished for things that we were standing up, for things that we knew was right, that we really wanted to go ahead. Or basically because Uranus is going, Uranus is still retrograde at the time of this reading, and Uranus will go forward or direct on January the 14th, and that's going to be really, really biggie because Uranus was in retrograde since August 15th, 2020, and when this happens, Uranus is already like a trickster. Uranus is already spinning on a tilt, and it's kind of like its own kind of like world to start with. So now it also on top of it goes retrograde, and this is where it allows us to kind of like do different changes. Think about Uranus like the Fool card, because the Fool represents Uranus. Uranus is God. Uranus mated with Gaia, the Mother Earth, and he's basically Father Sky, if you wish. And they produce a whole bunch of kids, and it's the story is kind of like really survival story. And he really didn't care about the 6 kids they had, and that kind of like bucked him down. And it's kind of like the proverbial earth and air. So if you really want to read a little bit of Greek mythology, go knock yourself out. So when Uranus goes retrograde, it's really showing all of that, I guess, negativity in us, and we are faced with our own negativity, with our own attitudes, with our own what we need to kind of look into that, what we need to do. Also, it's what is really interesting when kind of like when Uranus travels, like we always assign, or not we, or rather to say astrologers, because I'm just simply an amateur over there, just simply observation and applying kind of like different knowledge on that. So Uranus was traveling between 10 and 6 degrees Taurus, right? And the first retrograde, which was last year, was at 10, and then now it's coming out direct at 6. So in astrology, there are Sabian symbols for each degree of the zodiac, and that kind of like helps giving everything greater meaning to that event at hand. So the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees Taurus, when everything went into retrograde on August 15, 2020, and ask yourself where you were back then, it's almost like on the other side, right? Like it was a man, the symbol was a man seated on a throne. He was crowned with signs of wealth around him, which represents the degree of self-service. It will be our proverbial King of Pentacles that we have here in tarot, right? And what we had to do throughout this period, we had to be willing to sacrifice in order to build our wealth. It's in Taurus after all, and that's both material as well as emotional and spiritual. I feel that many Aquarians start to feel, I guess, slowed down by the others, that kind of like they didn't have that exchange that we were hoping for. But there have been also many people who entered our life, right? So this journey over this few degrees of Taurus basically had us shedding layers and seizing many opportunities for growth that kind of like required that we give up certain comforts and that we have now. And pandemic really didn't help. We had to kind of like make do, or we had to reinvent ourselves, or we had to reposition ourselves, and so on and so forth, right? So given that Uranus is basically universe, right? This is the ultimate act of trust, asking us, do you really believe your own crap, Aquarius, right? And believing that we will receive, and what we will receive will be much greater than what we are releasing. You know, like that's kind of like what I was telling you. It's kind of like the exchange of energy. So now, on the 6th of January, Uranus is finally turning direct, and the Sabian symbol is a cow. She is grazing in a field under the shade of trees, and we know, like this bull, Chicago stock, kind of like stock brokerage bull, stock market. So here, like we have a similar kind of symbol, because she's here signifying great wealth, which is due to effort, which is due to work, and it's kind of like something that is releasing unhealthy attachments, and we are finding true, I guess, contentment with what we really truly need, right? So this is something that is going to be very much in play for our sign. And never mind everything else that is happening, and there are a few other things, such as like also Mars is in Taurus, and when Mars gets in Taurus, this is on the 6th, this is like, talking about a great self-care, right? And everything is coming to it that maybe we have been the one who were giving our shoulders to cry. Maybe we were the one who were a caregiver, but maybe we really didn't get it back. Maybe people were just taking it, right? Like that's why this card was crucial. We had to learn of give and take, because even with selfless attitude that we usually have, and trying to help groups and stand up for what is right, and we just get slapped on the wrist, even at that, we still have to kind of like realize that we are living in this 3D world, and we have to kind of like deal with that. So now, like, we are going to start feeling more relaxed, but we'll be keeping our eye on the ball. And then there's like a 2 of sky over here, proverbial 2 of swords. This is coming in the past. It was some kind of indecision from where this wind blows, and where do I go? Which are my goals? What do I want to do? Should I believe my head? Should I believe my, heart? And like, we tend to kind of like go into the logical solution, but this is like, interestingly enough, what most people forget, that the marriage and love symbols are air signs. So that's why we have the Lovers and Justice card are both air. Mind you, we do have 2 of Cups, which actually represents this emotional bond that needs to be. And most likely this is, the reason for that is that until 20th century, really didn't have, they didn't place importance on emotional bonds. It was like more or less kind of like marriage of convenience, and who your parents wanted to set you up with because the families would benefit. So it was always some kind of like background thinking. So it almost looks like there is like some kind of shedding of any kind of discomfort, of anything that we have been saddled with, in order to create something really powerful for us. What is above us is moon. It is moon reversed, which is freaking awesome. So there is this full moon here, and I really want to mention full moon in Leo. I was born during the full moon in Rio. No, I was not born in Rio, and no, I'm not Spanish, in case you wondered. So when the moon is out there, it kind of like creates this whole trepidation of not really trusting what you see. Actually, right now it's the full moon. I just came back walking my dog Tiger, and it's absolutely freaking fantastic and mesmerizing to kind of like see this kind of like light shining upon the planet, which we still have the snow because we got white Christmas. It's almost like like you're in the middle of a day kind of a thing. Well, maybe not that bright, but you know what I mean, right? So the moon is also sometimes making us construct concepts in our own head, because moon I always connect to Hollywood and connect with illusion and connect it with what you want to be, what you wish to be, and the wishes and dreams are always very good, right? But it also makes you fall flat if you're not really acting on it, because life is less illusion and more like pragmatic steps in moving forward, and kind of like tries and kind of like readjustments, kind of like, if you wish. When moon reverses, we are getting into the practical state. We are now both dreaming, but we are not jealous about other people's successes. We are not trying to get what they are having. We are understanding that sense of having people close to us, but also that we need some kind of like authenticity. Maybe some of us strayed away from idea who we really are. Maybe we feel comfortable in the position that we have. Maybe we kind of like feel established. This is kind of like the Uranus that is coming through and saying, are you sure? Uranus is also being called the Great Awakener, right? And that's kind of like that internal evolution that is starting to happen when it's going basically direct, right? And so even though Uranus is kind of like considered to be brilliant, keep in mind this is like an oddball, so it can create lots of disturbing events as well. I really think over here that we will have our eyes wide open, and this kind of like a moon. Look at a kitty. I mean, kitty is the only thing, and I don't think it's a really good example because they can see really well in the dark. I mean, owls and kitties, they're like two exceptions to the world, right? And they're kind of like blessed with that special skill. And here it's almost like it's telling us you can see as well. You have been blind, but now you can see, right? Immediately ahead of us, we have sea kitten. We had the sea tom over here, and we have a sea kitten. So it almost looks like, well, this one is like when you zoom in on somebody, it's kind of like a flirtation of some sort. And maybe this person, instead of offering us, this could be us, but it could be somebody else actually coming toward us. So if this is us, maybe the person is only willing to offer friendship and only kind of like some kind of like creative or simply kind of like pragmatic advice with this. Hey, you know, you can make your living better. It could be a coach, it could be a business advisor, it could be a banker, right, of some sort, or simply somebody who just gives you tools in a way that you can understand and comprehend, that kind of like fits whoever you are. Many people give you tools and they're just simply not fitting. And I mean, screwdriver is a screwdriver, but if it's big for you, and if it's a wrong bit, off you go, kind of like it's not going to help. But this is kind of like show appearance of something that really works. It's a key in a lock, if you wish, right? If they are the sea tom, maybe we are only going to offer friendship. Maybe that's all we are ready for, right? Because after all, we are coming out of this period, from some kind of period where we kind of really didn't know what is up and what is down, kind of like feeling completely disoriented. But now with a repetition of seeing a sea kitten, it means that maybe this person is going to make us feel safe, right? And like I'm seeing like a water signs over here. I'm seeing basically all of them. The majors are coming in the air and water, so we can go with that as well. So if you really think air and water, air can actually create a wind and can affect water, and anything that is on the surface is going to be kind of like in possible danger depending on the degree of it, right? So it's basically suggesting, just like here, you just, you know, go big or you go home, kind of a thing. So, and then we have, this is our own house, and of course this is a 9, and this is a 9, and this is a 9 of sky. And check it out. What is bothering this kitty? Oh my gosh, firecrackers or dogs or predatory kind of like birds or other cats attacking bugs and snakes. And oh my gosh, like, I mean, this is like when you see this like little kind of like whiskers twitching and everything goes off. And it's a 9, just like this, the moon is 18, so 1 and 8 makes it 9. And 9 is kind of like really talking about completion. Maybe we have been going through a nightmarish period because it's a sky. It comes and goes, right? Like, I mean, if it would be 9 of cups, my nine of cups has a completely different archetype. This really means that we kind of like had periods, but because of this 9 in water, it is telling me that possibly last 9 months, so we are tracing this all the way back to March, and this is when this whole pandemic crap happened, the lockdowns happened. I don't know where you are. I am in Toronto, and we have now second lockdown, which is a hard lockdown. And honestly, just like, I mean, people are not really respecting it, which is too bad, but this is basically shutting down our entire province of Ontario. So to us, this is really talking about anticipating bad events. And generally, this is what happens when people experience some form of trauma. When, you know, like you have expectations and not only they are not met, but they are squished. So for us to be able to open up, right, after somebody extinguish air, it takes quite a bit, right? So now it's going to help when January 6 Mars goes in Taurus, and then January 14 Uranus goes direct, right? And this is Uranus goes direct only a day after we have a new moon in Capricorn. So this kind of like can all point out to business. Taurus is really good for business, but Taurus and Capricorn, both earth signs, which kind of like we see here right in the center, right? It can talk about kind of like really need to kind of like really figure out who you are. There's like a little bit of self-care that we really need to kind of like lick our wounds, but by doing that we are disinfecting everything. We are putting the seal. There are 9s. So maybe this is the last thing, and whenever I see this fear or anxiety, this means we are not living in the present. We are somewhere else. We are re-experiencing our dreams. We are having this trauma, maybe post-traumatic stress disorder, right, that some people have from just keep saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I just can't believe it, I'm going through this again. There was like some kind of like turmoil that had to be kind of like dealt with. It hasn't been dealt with. It looks like, and this is our ultimate survivor kind of like thing, that whole trauma was buried somewhere. And it's coming out in dreams. It's coming out in the most inconvenient kind of like moments. There is like really something that we really need to kind of like think about it. But the good news is that on the 19th this year, we are entering into our Aquarius season. So happy birthday, Aquarius, starting off 19 forward. Up to that point, there are Capricorns. So this is a time for celebration. This is a time for accepting us, who we really, really are. So let me see the environment. Look, the environment is death. And this is another water here that we have. This is Scorpio. And it's a very, very sad card, isn't it? Like, I mean, there's the lost life that has been kind of like lived and lost, but it hasn't been forgotten. Obviously, look at all this kind of flowers that have been done there. So, I don't know, maybe somebody is going to come from the woodwork. After all, this is the first Mercury retrograde in the year. Like, I mean, we are going to start entering. Some people are more sensitive in the shadows. I'm one of those people. So already on the 7th, it's going to be the entry of the shadow. But the official entry is January 30th, right? So now, Mercury retrograde is in Aquarius, so it's a friendly kind of like cooperation, so it's not going to be really that bad, but be very careful because now we see the Scorpio here, and if you're sexting or having some kind of like naughty pictures, be very, very sure that you are sending that to the right person. That's all I have to say on this one, because also January 28th, and we have the full moon in Leo, as I mentioned, right? But so basically combine this with this romantic kind of attitudes with, hey, you know, why not? Let's kind of take it to the next stage. What if you send it to somebody you really don't want to send? And that could be pretty bad. So hopes and fears, oh my gosh, we have Karma card, the World. And in a traditional Rider-Waite deck, we have Aquarius, we have Scorpio, we would have a Leo and Taurus, kind of like surrounding this whole scene on the edges, kind of like saying we are fixed, we have built these systems, and these systems are here for making this work. But look at that, isn't this lovely? It's the kitty that is really looking at the planet, and it kind of like really fits, because that will be this Gaia, that will be this Earth, that will be this world that is kind of like marrying this Uranus, which kind of like has this very special meaning for us. So we want to be on top of the world again, and this card means we will. We also kind of like really learned long-lasting lessons, and now with Saturn being in Aquarius is going to last next 3 years, which depending on you, which depending how much you want to resist, if you want a status quo, that's what you will get. This is what is the basically the message. You need to let go. Certain things need to be let go. If things are just not doable or workable, you just need to let go. It's kind of like trusting that universe, trust the universe. It is really hard for us to do that, especially, as I said, it was the period of people not doing what they say they would. They didn't keep their word, and we as fixed signs, you absolutely screw us up on that end when you do that. And then we have a Nine of Sea. I did mention Nine of Cups, but I said this is completely different. Look at that. It's coming up on top. It's almost like the other side of the coin, isn't it? We are also in a dream world here, but what is she dreaming here? She's dreaming, and how do I know it's she? She has 3 colors, right? And like 99% of the cases, tricolor cats are females. So she's dreaming about kittens. She's dreaming about little mice and the nice bowl of milk, right? And catnip and the fish and scampi and the birds and oh my gosh, like I mean, look at what I can do, like the fish. I just bought a flopping fish for my kitties and they're absolutely not interested whatsoever. But this is like a third 9. So now we have this repetition, 9, 9, and 9, and also that in itself is some kind of like finality whatsoever. So I think prior to our birthday, we are tying up all the loose ends, and this is it. Like we are ready for the new. We are ready to go in a new direction. So the January 14th is going to be in the morning. I forgot. I think it was around 3 o'clock a.m. here in North America. So that means if you're listening to this in Europe, depending on your zone from Eastern Standard Time, so you might just wake up and already Uranus will be direct. And that is going to bring huge changes. So January is going to be really interesting. I really think this is like something to really look forward to. And look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4 major arcanas that are actually in a reading of the 10 cards is really talking about some massive changes that the universe is pushing us in. So trust. So I was supposed to be already done with the reading, but I told you the second part is going to be simply like I'm shuffling for the quick introduction of 2021 to see what is in the store for us. And I'm only going to do this upright because it's just simply everything has their little kind of like dark side, and dark side is something that we also need to learn from in order to move to the light, right? So let's see what is like 2021 for Aquarius. So we have integration, and there is like this yin and yang, like we had it in the Lovers card over here, and look at this. Here we have an eagle and a swan, right? So a diamond or lotus if you wash with a yin yang. So this is really, and the snake is biting its tail, so this is kind of like again a cycle that is really continuing. And the 2 sides, the sun and the moon, I guess, that is probably representing our male and female as well. That and this is a major arcana, would be temperance in the regular deck. oof, almost like everything jumped. It is like no thingness. It is like really weird, because I would assign this card to a Fool, because it will be like, and then there will be light. But it makes sense to make this for the Hierophant as well, right? So we have a Temperance, we have the Hierophant. Holy moly. There's a Karma card over here. Breakthrough. So that's Justice. I mean, I'm having goosebumps at this stage. And we have Control. And it's kind of like really, really weird. That is Knight of Swords over here. Of course, we are fixed signs, and of course that we are going to control over here. So let's see what we have over here. So altogether is really talking like it would add up to the Hangman, and it would add up to the Empress, right? So the Empress represents Venus, and Venus is connecting to Taurus, and again goes back to Mars, and again goes back to Uranus, which we have the kind of like starting from January, but it's kind of like going to send this attitude throughout the year. This is massive, which means we really don't have choice. We are being straight, and we are being told what to do, and we already know what it is. So this is the thing. Remember how I said, like, if you hold on to that Nine of Swords and this nightmarish kind of like things, you will have hard time. Control is showing here that each and every time we are not really successful. Look at how he isolated himself, like with what freaking maneuver didn't he do, like, kind of like to create himself into something here. The whole point here is to release. The whole point is to kind of like understand, because there is this breakthrough, and after the breakthrough, somebody trying to put all these pieces together, because look, he has these clouds he has these clouds behind him, which to me represents it's the mind that is swirling, somebody trying to make sense after the new things. We tend to control things, not that we are like controlling, well, we can go that far, I guess, as well. But the Taurus, which is behind the Hierophant, is also very controlling, which is kind of like coming over here. And I really think this is all connecting to Uranus, because after all, that is kind of like the ultimate kind of like redemption, if you wish. Breakthrough means we are not standing in the spot. We are kind of like shedding things that really need to kind of like get off. So maybe kind of like things will happen suddenly, and we will really have to fall into, like, I mean, this new system, and initially you kind of like go and try to control it. Just remember, when things are not happening, they're not happening for a reason, because look at that. It went from a complete darkness to kind of like shedding it and breaking right through. So what is the breakthrough that you need to do? Because it looks like this duality and having like the opposites kind of like bearing inside of us is already prepared. The seed is already there. It's just like simply waiting for basically spring to kind of like come through, right? So majority of the year is going to be absolutely spectacular. It's going to be guiding us through positive experience, through kind of like reestablishing ourselves, maybe following tried and true, maybe kind of like applying principles that we have already had that worked, and now reapplying them. This could mean opening the business. This could even mean getting married. This to me are the ultimate kind of like marriage cards, right? And maybe this is why we all feel in control, that things are finally working out. Well, which would tell me, well, did you really learn the lesson? This whole control was, the whole idea was releasing the control, releasing, bringing us to some kind of like higher spiritual level. Let me just check also the Lenormand, and I will also start offering Lenormand readings as a separate reading, which is, I guess, I don't know how much you guys know about it. Some of my clients swear by it. It can show lots of timing, and that's kind of like sometimes really difficult to do it in tarot. Look, somebody is really showing up, the Gentleman. If you're a male and you're listening to it, you're going to really feel in charge. You're going to feel that you need to make the motions, right? But this is kind of like really the Clover is talking about the luck that is really coming our way, that we can really count on. Woo, the key. This is the key to this deck, and it's called the key. This means something for sure will happen. It's coming right next to this breakthrough. Key is a solution. This is kind of like finding out. So we will not need a really big luck. This does mean luck, but in this deck, it's not the biggest luck. It will be the bouquet card. This is sort of like, you know, like when you really need to kind of like choose this between left and right, it kind of like gives you the hint, and then you kind of like choose the right thing, right? Sort of thing. This also literally could mean winning lottery, because this is connecting to this nothingness. It means kind of like it's going to be a reinvention. But I also said this is something that kind of connects these masses and this kind of like a massive attitudes that are coming through. And one more for us Aquarians. You know, this one wants to come out. And of course, there will be sun. So control, if you ever want to control things, go out, have a breather, have some fresh air, enjoy the sun. It's going to really, really help us. So this also means that things will be happening around our birthday. So we are talking about January 19th to February 18th this year, but it also really talks about simply the seasons of the sun, which talks about from, I guess, now, because we just finished winter solstice when the sun is kind of coming up, all the way down to when it is in June. So there is like something that's going to be brought up to our attention. Sun always talks about transparency, so we are going from this darkness to the light, right? So we can see the stages. We will be the one who will walk out of the darkness. This also tells me that there's some kind of attitude that maybe we settle ourselves with it, that we kind of like the trauma that I see in some of you has been possibly finally released. And guys, an oracle card that I said is going to seal this reading. So let's see, from my Aquarians, practical advice, and you're getting Golden Palace reversed, and that's all this Taurus that is kind of like following us this particular year, telling us you need to learn these pragmatic things, you need to learn how to work for the masses, right? Because we like to be kind of like solo all the time. So this is what it says: there is always enough. Let go of your tight hold on what you believe security should look like. Now it is the time to conserve your energy and count your blessings. Resist the pull to become miserly. There will be enough money, love, youth, food, and shelter to go around. A mindset of fear and lack will shut off the flow of true abundance. Trust in the tides, because the flow always returns from the ebb. Chop wood, carry water, as the Chinese proverb says. So practice faith and the treasure will be revealed. In fact, you will find it in plain sight. You see, that's why we don't need a really big luck. Things are really, really happening. So guys, this is actually lovely. We're going to have a very strong year. Resist trying to control things. Resist trying to tell others what to do, because look how he's clenching his fists over here, and he's not realizing all the bounty he might have going out there. So taking the walls down, kind of like self-care, self-healing, licking your wounds, accepting yourself, self-nurturing, friendships, who stays, who goes. That's going to be sort of like a theme. So enjoy. And let me remind you one more time, guys, check your sun sign, check your moon sign, check your ascendant, and also to kind of like get 2021 numerology review, you need to be only on my mailing list, because that's the only way I'm going to send it. So the description, the link is in the description below. And lastly, if you want a reading with me, this is cattarot.ca. I'm also open to accepting personal annual forecast readings. They're also discounted from $230 to $195. But this is currently only open to my past clients. And when I'm done with this, when I don't see this influx anymore, then I'm going to open it to everybody. I'm expecting this to be somewhere, I don't know, March, April. So namaste, my dear friends. I love you. Would love to be kind of get a comment from you. Everybody's so quiet this year, so it just like feels like voice in the ether. So hey, welcome Uranus, welcome chatty Aquarius, and have a wonderful, beautiful January and even better 2021. Love you.